What's up, everybody? Here we are with another Just Landed, and this one we got a bunch of cool stuff. Starting off with, you just saw a whole bunch of fresh new Megabass lids. Actually, I think these have been around for a while. We just got a big shipment of a whole bunch of new hats in from Megabass. Some of them are new styles to Omnia Fishing. We've had an order for a long time, so if you've been after a Megabass lid, they're here now. Go grab them while they're here. Next up, we have new sizes in the Z2 from Strike King. You got a 4-inch. There's a couple colors in it here. Great. Minnow presentations here. As you know, minnow presentations are taking off in popularity. This was one of the original, very popular minnow baits out there, and now they have it in a new size for you. Next up, we have the Duh spoon from Nichols. I was wondering why what made this spoon cool, and now I know. Duh. It's got a decoy treble on it with Flashaboo on it. Plus, it's got a really high-end swivel at the other end, your line tie end, so you're not going to get any line twist cracking on this spoon all day long. So right out of the package, really cool spoon here from Nichols. Next up is a couple new ChatterBait trailers from our friends at Z-Man. You've got the ballers here, the Big Baller Z. This has got a ball at the end of the tail, so very similar to your Chatter Spike style bait. This has got a little ball at the end, so you should get a little bit more action out of that subtle, thin trailer tail there. Next up, you have the Chatter Shad. This one I know people have been after for a while, been talking about this one for a while. I think this one's gonna be a very popular one. It comes in a 3.5 and a 4.5-inch size. It's got that vertical tail shad type presentation with a thinner profile than a lot of the other shad trailers out there. That's gonna allow the chatterbait to have less drag, less resistance, so it'll hunt better. It might make wider swings as you're reeling the chatterbait back in for more sparse cover. And in heavy cover, it should cut through that cover a little better, being less bulky. It should be easier to fish this thing at a little bit more depth as well. Because if you do something like as crazy as fishing a tungsten style chatterbait, like the new Tungsten Evo, you can fish them deeper than you could previous models of chatterbaits. I am obsessed with this one here, and it's on my chatterbait rod because I'm gonna go chatterbait fishing with it. This is the Tungsten Evo in 3/8 of an ounce. So as you see, the head on this thing is tiny. From what I've heard from everybody that's actually got to fish these a bunch so far, is you can actually get the same depth with a size down as you could have the previous lead models of these. So think about it. The 3/8 now, I could fish as deep as I could fish a 1/2 ounce with the lead version. So this still is gonna be my shallow option, my very shallow cover option, but I could also fish it out a little bit deeper, which is really nice. So I get a more compact presentation, a little deeper presentation, and I also get more sensitivity out of that tungsten in the head. These aren't cheap, but I bet you these are gonna be one of the more popular baits going into next year, especially for those of us like me that suck at scoping. Enjoy the new Tungsten Evos. Next up, let's go back to scoping. Pinger minnows. So you got these from Strike King here. If you notice, the tail is kind of like a whale tail kind of thing on there. It forks out and it's flat. It's gonna provide a little bit of lift to this thing. It's pre-rigged with a hook already in it. So it's gonna have that horizontal presentation that's very realistic, that what the fish are honestly keying in on right now. And we've seen with the scope, without you having to hunt down the right proper jig or rigging setup for this. You don't have to learn how to use the hover rig or anything like that. Right out of the box, these are ready to go. And you know at Strike King, they actually do, and this is what has always made Strike King such a awesome consumables company, you know, making some of the best baits ever made, is that all their pros do fish this stuff and fish it extensively. And we know from those guys that these people have been catching them on this stuff. I love the fact that the hook in this thing doesn't look really light. I have to take them out of the package and play with them a little bit. Looks like you can get away with some decent sized line on it as well. It's not a super finessey version of a scoping minnow, which I really like. So check this thing out. I think this is going to be a really popular new addition from Strike King because it does take a lot of the guesswork out of your minnow pinging adventures. Lastly, got to talk about this one here. This is from Baits. We got hammered on because we added all the Baits reels. These didn't come till now. These were on the site when the other ones got added, but this one hadn't been on there yet. This is the new swim bait reel. This thing is absolutely awesome. It is huge, as far as the handle goes anyway. As you see, the side plate, I'm a big fan of. They hide the brake in the back there so you don't get a lot of friction on your hand as you palm the reel. You got these big oversized knobs on here that get taper out to get bigger at the opposite end, at the end that you'd be pulling back out against, which I really like. They're made of like a I don't know what material is, maybe a TPE material of some sort, or some sort of rubberized harder material, but it is grippy and it feels really nice on here. I like the way they finished the aluminum and the metal pieces on these reels. They look different than other reels out there. This thing, if it's anything like the smaller baits reels that we've been casting around in the warehouse here, it's gonna chuck stuff. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it feels like a tank. These things feel very well built. They are all metal, they feel all metal, and it's really cool to see that these guys are trying to manufacture these start to finish in the States. Yes, there are sourced parts in the baits reels because he hasn't got to the point where he can manufacture that stuff yet, but he is assembling, and I know they're starting to cut gears, they're starting to do all sorts of stuff stateside here. Very, very cool to see that they're cutting the frames here in the States and all that stuff. So rooting for these guys. Check out the bait swim bait reels on the site now. If you're a big baiter, I know you're not scared of price points. You should give this thing a shot. This thing is pretty sweet. I'm sure a couple of our swim bait heads here, like Nick, are going to have their hands on these soon, so we'll get you some on the water reports shortly. All this stuff is on the site now. Enjoy and go shopping.